Hello everyone, we are here for the last time in this setting because the next time you see us we're going to have our own house, so we're super excited about that.
Yes,
Yes.
for sure.
We're also here with well wishes for the holiday season, so I hope you guys have a Merry Christmas after you guys are watching this.
Don't mind me.
Don't mind you? Okay.
Don't worry about it.
Do we have reviews?
Yes,
Okay,
we do.
Alright, cool. Let's get to it, let's get to it.
Fairy Sin Girl.
What does she have to say?
You just knocked our microphone really hard.
That's certainly interesting. I didn't know that she would say that.
Alright, Fairy Sin Girl. I like you. I like you had Izuku in third place. LOL. And Bakugo was really fuming over being in third place with Izuku. I think Kurai definitely earned that spot in first place, so congrats to him on that. Bakugo probably could have won, though, if he hadn't let his temper get the best of him during his match with Kurai. But oh well, too bad for him. He should just suck it up and be grateful he's still third place, even if Izuku is there too.
Don't let him hear you say that. I have to say, when I was writing Tournament Arc, I was really worried about how people were gonna take the whole Todoroki walking off and giving Kurai the win kind of thing. But it seems like that went over pretty well with most people.
I mean, it works with his character. That's why it works. You weren't just pushing it because you wanted your character to win. Because I don't think that was even the intention from the get-go.
No.
That's just the way that the bracket turned out. With
No, I'll drop a fun fact for you. If Kurai had gone up against Deku, he would have lost.
Sorry. It's a marshmallow. I promise. We're having all kinds of weirdness today.
Oh my goodness.
Okay.
Yeah. I guess I forgot to mention that if I'd had Kurai go up against Deku this year, Deku would have won. He would have broke his arm to do it, but he would have won.
So it's just the way the bracket.
It's just where the bracket ended up going. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. All right. Makes sense though. All right. Deku Rose, loving the Hikari Mina mix in this chapter.
All right, I'm glad. All right, so good start with that.
All right, Joe Clone. Okay, I'd call this beach episode pretty solid and something I'd expect out of the show. Kurai and Mina being so cute together. That motorcycle date toward the end gave me the good kind of cheesiness that I love. Oh, also, it's awesome that you're gonna do the Island. I loved that movie.
Yeah, man.
You did too.
Yeah, man. We went to see that in theaters.
Yeah.
That was actually the first movie that Natalie went to see with us, right?
Yes, I missed.
Or did she? No, wait. She went to see The Incredibles, right?
She went to see The Incredibles. That's when she was a newborn.
Yep.
Fun fact: newborns, they sleep all the time. They can sleep through explosions.
Toddlers do not.
Well, no. By the time we went to see this movie, she was an infant. She was a little older, and loud noises and explosions and Bakugo just did not mix with nap time. So I thought that she was going to be perfect like she had been with the last movie. No.
That was a mistake.
The last 10 minutes, I was walking up and down the aisles trying to keep her asleep because I had to leave for a good portion of it because she was screaming. And the best part was when she woke up, it was so noisy that we couldn't tell if she was crying or if it was part of the explosion.
Part of the movie, yeah.
And then, when I tried to pull her out of her car seat, she got stuck, and then I fell out of my seat. And Joe's enjoying the movie so much.
I was so into it. I'm not paying attention to anything that's happening over here.
I'm over here fuming because I fell out of my seat, and my husband is just so into the movie, and I have this crying child who is stuck with her arm in her car seat, and I fell on my butt. There's popcorn everywhere. It was great. It was horrible. But when I saw the whole movie in my living room after we bought the DVD, it was great. Mm-hmm. That being said, I did see the majority of the film in the theater, and it was really awesome.
Yeah.
Sorry, tangent.
You just like the Mineta scene.
I hate Mineta, but that is the most perfect comedy gold that they ever could have written.
Him climbing up the side of the building.
It's only funny in Japanese.
Yeah.
Though. The English voice actor just doesn't make it as funny. So I feel like Mineta is funny in Japanese, but when they translate it to English, it just doesn't do it for me.
He comes across the way he's supposed to. He's a freaking pervert.
Yeah, he's really annoying. It's because we don't get it. I don't know. Anyway,
but yeah, man, you can you can definitely look forward to the movie arc. I'm really excited to get to that. We'll get to that in I want to say 2 months. We'll start the movie arc because I think it's 4. I think I have 4 or 5 chapters before we get there.
Cool.
Because we've got the internship arc, then we got the final exam, then we got the not final exam, but the semester exam arc, and then after that we'll get into Island.
Yeah. All right. So why is it that the simplest of names is the one that escapes everyone's guesses? Kai's a great name too. Wonder though why you didn't show Ida choosing his own name. I thought Kurai would react to that in his head somehow.
No, I don't think Kurai would. Cause, I mean, Ida's never really talked about like what kind of hero name he would take he's always been so wrapped up in. I feel like he's always been so wrapped up in trying to become like Ingenium that he wouldn't really give his own hero identity much thought up until that point. So I kind of just felt like it would play out how it did in the original, and he's just like, yeah, my name's Ida. Kurai wouldn't think much of it because he's worried about other things for his friend. He's not really paying attention to what hero name he would come up with because so far this is the most like normal thing that Ida would do. And as far as Kurai, he doesn't know that Ingenium wants Ida to take his name. He hasn't found that out yet. So, no, this isn't really something that Kurai would think to comment on. I don't think.
Okay. All right. I love Mina's new name, though. It's much better than Pinky. I agree. I didn't mind Creati because I think it's a testament to the nuances of Japanese language that make it work the way it does.
Oh, so it's probably one of those things that didn't translate over as well.
Yeah. Granted, I still haven't watched the English dub yet, except the movie, which was awesome.
Dude, the English dub is awesome. Like, oh my god, like.
The voice acting is very good in the show.
Especially for the season 4 finale. For Endeavor versus High-End Nomu and for All Might versus All for One, like, I'm sorry, but the dub doesn't even compare in the Japanese. Like, you can just feel how much the American voice actors are putting into it.
And I think, it also comes with, the way we understand intonation too. But yeah,
there is some of that, but it's just like to me, I've said this before, but like for the Japanese voice actors, it just for a lot of the time, like not all of them, but for a lot of the time, it just kind of feels like it's another job to them. But for the Americans, it's like this is superheroes meets anime, and everybody grew up with superheroes. So who wouldn't want to have a chance to knock this one out of the park? And boy, do they do it.
That's pretty good. I enjoy it. All right. So, called it. Kai is going to gang Orca.
You were right, man.
Which brings us new original stuff. I always enjoy when you do this, Mataris. I am hyped for the next time. Plus Ultra. Or Plus Ultra.
Plus Ultra. I'm glad you're excited, man. I'm excited too. I'm growing a lot more confident in doing my own like little original side quests. Or not even side quests, but like a little like my own original arcs.
Fan fiction.
Well, yeah. Well, no, but you know what I mean. Like most of the time, I have a tendency to stick pretty close to the original source material.
Tweak a little bit here and there.
Tweak a little bit here and there, but like this, like obviously the beach episode didn't happen in the original. Mina and Kurai's first date, that didn't happen in the original.
But obviously, we have this ripple effect happening. So
yeah.
the further the story progresses, we're going to start having more and more.
This is the first time that like major events are going to play out where Kurai isn't there because he's not going to be there for the hero killer for the Stain arc. He's going to be doing his own original thing.
Alrighty, Light Hero Kaiser. I feel like
Majin Lightus.
I know, but I'm trying to remember the pun we came up with, and I'm drawing a blank. What is wrong with me? I was thinking about it all week.
Watch this. We're going to remember it after this video's over with.
Okay, I'm going to remember. Oh my gosh, what's wrong with me?
We're going to have to write it down next time.
I was laughing my head off. No, seriously.
It was really funny.
I was thinking about it all week. Now I can't remember. It's the
I hate it when that happens.
It was just a tiny bit. Just a tiny bit. I cooked it. Just a little bit of alcohol. It's fine. It's vanilla. It was boiling. Okay. Anyway, sorry.
You see what I have to work with?
All right. Great chapter, mate. I was kind of half right with the hero name. I said it might be Kaiser, but I was still half right. And I
literally half. 3 letters on, 3 letters wrong.
Good?
Yeah, I burped in my mouth.
All right. That's nice.
You asked?
Thank you for letting me know.
Don't ask if you don't want to know.
I feel sorry for Kurai about losing the vet. Blade Hero Light signing out.
Bat what? Oh, the bat about Midoriya showing up in All Might Storm. Okay, yeah.
Yes.
That's like 5. It's like the equivalent of $5. He didn't lose that much.
Ooh, here's a question you like.
What's that?
Guessed. Why did he choose the name Kai?
So I kind of went over this in the story, as well as the Omaki section at the end of it. So Kai is mostly a reference to Dragon Ball. King Kai. The Kais are supposed to be the Guardians of the Galaxy. Sorry, Marvel. They're supposed to be the ones that kind of look out after everything, make sure that that nobody's stepping out of line, stuff like that. So that's kind of the role that he's trying to assume. And Kai also does, as I understand it, I could be wrong, but as I understand it, Kai itself does roughly translate as Guardian.
I thought it was God.
No, that's Kami.
See, I don't know.
No, it's a similar word.
Yeah.
It's a similar word.
Similar connotation.
I think in context, Kai could be seen as like a watchful deity kind of a thing,
Okay.
or a watchful guardian. So that's why he picked that. That's why he picked that name. And as for his alias, the Guardian Hero, again, it's a call to his name, as well as he's a giant Star Wars nerd. And in Star Wars, the Jedi were the guardians of peace in the Old Republic. So there you go. There's the Guardian Hero. Alright, following some technical difficulties.
Shepard 14, Blasting Explode has to be my absolute favorite nickname for Bakugo. Ha 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 ha. That was great. I agree. That is how we refer to Bakugo in this house most of the time.
I actually can't take credit from that one. I was reading My Hero fanfiction like a year ago or something like that, and I busted myself laughing. When I saw that, so I was like, well, if I write My Hero, I'm gonna write. And lo and behold, I decided to start writing My Hero fanfiction, and it came up, and I used it, and I'm so glad somebody liked it.
Yep. See, most of the time that is Bakugo's name because Bakugo in this house is our fish, and our daughter wakes up asking for Pocoyo and Pato, who are cartoon characters, and Bakugo, who is the fish to her.
Yeah, anytime she sees Bakugo on the anime, I tell her that's Kachan, so she's starting to learn to call him.
I see. Anyway, thank you, Shepard 14.
Yeah, man, welcome to the story.
All right, Silly Kita.
What's your favorite?
Sorry, I'm just trying to remember. Never mind. It was Majin Lightus. We came up with a pun last time, and it's still bothering me that I can't think of it. All right. A lot more went into this chapter than I thought there would be. Let's break it down. So the beach party actually surprised me on 2 levels. The first being that I really liked the mini filler feel of it. I was concerned that it was going to feel a little forced, so like a lot of beach episodes in anime/manga, but you kept it short enough that I didn't feel as though it detracted from the main story. Don't laugh at me. The other thing that surprised me was how, and I say this without really knowing another word to use, fan servicey you made it when it came to the girls. Ashino in particular, I didn't think you had that in you. But
you can't see my face because there's no camera, but it's super red right now.
There's no camera?
No, I couldn't get the camera to work.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah, we're having to go on audio with this.
I was not aware. Cool.
Yeah.
So this new mustache of marshmallows is not being filmed. That's good to know. All right. The other thing...
I hope you guys can hear my eyes rolling right now.
I didn't think you had that in you, but I guess it goes to show that I shouldn't lower my expectations of you, even if you are venturing into new territory with your writing. I was surprised too. Don't worry. Well done.
Yeah, I remember like, I was super self-conscious. Not only writing the blog, especially reading it to my wife, I'm just like, there was like only 1 of 2 ways that this goes, and I'm not sure which way it's gonna fly. Turned out okay though.
I watch enough anime. It's fine. I know you like me.
You said
We're good.
dude.
All right.
High five.
Ow.
It was pitiful.
Okay, let's try again then.
There we
Ouch!
go.
Okay, that was ow. Okay.
The first one was not ow.
Wife beater. Okay. Well done on that part. Next up, I see that you're introducing the concept of the Island arc already, which is giving it a more natural feel, and I like it. I honestly thought it was going to be more of a case where they say, hey, there's this thing next week, want to go? This early introduction to the idea makes it feel as though it really fits into the main course of the story instead of, like, a side quest. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that was the idea. That was it. I mean, you know, it's a movie. It wasn't in the original manga, so of course there's so much they could do to integrate it into the original timeline, which I think they did an all right job with that episode special that happened the week before the movie was released. But I felt like this would help the story to flow a little more naturally. So I'm glad that that's the effect that it gave off.
I agree too, because that's a problem that I always have with anime movies, especially when they're not technically canon, but they kind of are. These movies do work into the anime they do
timeline.
work into the anime canon, but often in anime movies, it's just like something out of left field. Like, oh, by the way, all of this happened in between these two episodes.
Anime movies tend to be more like what ifs than contributions to the actual.
Yes, the more Naruto I watch, the more I can appreciate it. But it's taken me a long time to get into it because I usually get just frustrated when it's not canon. But then I want to watch it anyway because I want more. So, but yes, I agree. I like that he's working it in a little bit earlier and including it in the headcanon that we have here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I see that good boy Ida is still going over to the dark side, and that worries me. Well, and what worries me is that Hikari is not going to be there to look out for him in the coming arc. I imagine that Todoroki and Midoriya will be able to help him, as they did in the canon event, without Hikari, but still. Oh wait, that's right! Internship arc is here!
He's been asking about this one for a while.
Hey, it's a fun arc.
Yeah, dude, Stain versus the UA students. That was such a great set of episodes.
Seriously. I love this arc in particular, and the fact that you have created an original bit for Hikari now excites me more than I would have thought it would, given how well you have handled inserting your own material in the story so far. I was initially disappointed to realize that we very likely won't get to see Hikari square off against the hero killer who took down Ingenium, who his family was close to, but now I'm confident that you will give us something really equally cathartic and pivotal to his character development. Even if it's not in this arc itself, it will be at some point down the line, so I look forward to it.
Wow, somebody's got very high expectations.
Oh, no pressure.
I'm not bothered.
Okay.
That's no problem. I can meet expectations.
Keep telling yourself that. I love... Just kidding. I'm just kidding.
What is happening?
I'm just kidding. It's the alcohol. No, it's not.
Someone got into the eggnog a little early.
I don't have eggnog.
Sure. Wink.
I love his hero name. I'm kind of disappointed in myself for not seeing it coming. You left us several clues along the way now that I go back and look on it. It's so simple, but it works so well for him. I'm also super happy for the guy oh, sorry, I cannot read. My gosh, they're going to start thinking that I've had... I haven't. I promise. It's just hot chocolate. I'm also super happy for the guy because he gets to intern with his favorite hero. And from the preview, it looks like they're going to get along great. Given that Gang Orca is shown to be a very capable teacher in the source material when it comes to a large group of students, I wonder how you'll have him work in a more tutor-like situation. That's a really good point.
Yeah.
I hope that you and yours have a Merry Christmas, Mataras. See you next year, which I'm really hoping turns out better than the crap fest that was 2020.
You and everybody else, man.
Hey, our year has not been that bad. The world is awful, but our personal lives...
You know what, that's true, that's true. Our personal lives have been pretty good.
This has honestly been one of our better years.
That's true. That's pretty true.
Like, you know, everybody, yeah, it's been crazy, but it can be worse. We're blessed.
We're
good.
That's true.
P.S.
I hope your year gets better, man.
Yeah. P.S. I saw the picture of Ashido and Hikari on your Insta. Pretty damn cute.
I'm glad you like that, man.
Yeah, that was like, how many likes did you get within a second?
Oh my goodness, I put like almost before I hit the upload button, there was like 6 likes in 3 seconds. I was just like, it didn't even tally that many likes in total, but I was just like, how did I get that? I'm like, I just hit my finger on the button. How do you people, just how?
Guess you're gonna be, your next fan fiction is gonna be makeout tactics.
Oh. Wow. Hey,
I gotta harass you for that beach episode, and it was just too easy. That we all know. That's why
I have so many regrets now.
That is exactly why it got that so many likes from people you didn't know.
It was the photo wasn't even that fan service. It was just supposed to be cute.
Mhm. Yeah.
It's not like they were. They were just.
No, I know.
What? I don't understand.
There's a correlation.
I don't understand it.
No. That is what people are looking for when they're looking for fan art. A lot of people.
Okay then. I
can't see our.
I got nothing.
So great.
I got nothing.
Well, thank you, Silly Cuda. That is our last review for the day.
Alrighty. So we'll go ahead and switch over to the audio chapter, and then we will be back to discuss the behind the scenes, which I'm looking forward to because there were a few there were several things that I had fun putting in this little episode. So back in a minute.
Beyond expectations. So, you're Hikari. Kugo Sakamata, otherwise known as Gang Orca, mused as the first-year intern stood before his office desk. The room was empty except for the two of them. The intern was dressed in his school uniform, and he looked as if he'd taken a bit of time to clean up his appearance with a fresh haircut, almost as though he were applying for a job. Actually, he was, in a sense, applying for a job here, Kugo reasoned as he glanced down toward the boy's profile in his clawed hand. Yes, sir, the boy answered swiftly. I wasn't able to watch the sports festival this year, but one of my sidekicks went to scout the competitors for me. His temporary supervisor rumbled. Normally, I don't take an interest in first years, but due to the USJ incident, I decided to check how that had affected your class. My sidekick told me about your efforts to win the festival, some of which are impressive, and others that you definitely could use some improvements with. Then, of course, there's the manner with which the tournament concluded, but in my opinion, there's not much you could have done about that. May I ask about what areas I lacked in, sir? Kurai inquired. I watched the highlights that featured you after the fact, Gang Orca explained. You performed admirably in the obstacle course, putting your quirk to use in ways that I found innovative, and I don't impress easily. Thank you, sir, Kurai said with another bow, partially to hide the smile on his face. As he straightened up again, however, Gang Orca went on to say, I was disappointed by your performance during the cavalry battle. Despite making it to the next round, you only did so by playing the part of the minimalist, lacking the ambition to pursue higher goals. Kurai's cheeks reddened, but he accepted the rebuke without comment. Seeing his calm acceptance, Gang Orca asked him, Why did you settle when you could have reached higher, Hikari? The boy thought about how to phrase his answer carefully before saying, If it had just been me, sir, I think I would have taken bigger risks to gain more. However, because I had people depending on me to make it to the next round, I didn't want to risk their standing for a personal gain. A noble sentiment, the pro hero nodded, but each of your teammates knew the risks and accepted them, did they not? You should understand that in a hero's line of work, we all know the risks and what they entail. Yes, sir, Hikari said again. During the battle tournament, you performed very well again, so I know you can handle yourself if it comes to combat against most of the great villains that I come across, the huge man said. During your week here, we will be doing a lot of patrols, both on the water and in the streets. In the hours that we are not patrolling or taking a meal, you will be training with one of my sidekicks. We will also be coordinating with 2 other agencies this week, and when we do, you are to be on your best behavior. Pausing for a moment, the whale man then asked, Do you have any other questions, Hikari? Yes, sir, he nodded. If I do well enough this week, may I have your autograph? Gang Orca blinked a couple of times in surprise before he chuckled deep in his throat. I don't often meet fans, he told his intern. Most children cry when they see me in person. Yeah, most people also look up to All Might as their personal favorite. Kurai grinned slightly. You've always been my number 1 hero, sir, ever since I was little. Then I'll see about that autograph. The pro hero laughed. I think I know a guy. Getting up and moving to stand directly in front of the boy, he said, "Welcome to my agency, young man." Kurai reached out and shook his mentor's offered hand as he replied, "I look forward to learning from you, sir." Kurai was shown to the small room that he would be staying in while he interned at the agency, where he put away his backpack, which contained his regular clothes, and his suitcase, which held his now improved hero costume. Akari had told him that he'd put in a request for another addition to the costume he would greatly appreciate. As soon as he finished putting away his few belongings, a young man appeared in the doorway and said, "Hey kid, boss says you're going on patrol in 15. Better get your costume on." "I got you," he said as he plopped the suitcase up on the bed. "I'll be there." He heard the sound of retreating footsteps as he unlocked the case and examined the contents within. His gi and the armor that went over it were unchanged, but when he picked up his sword, he noticed that the weight felt just a little different than it had before. Not in a bad way, though. Grabbing up the instruction booklet, he scanned through the page that depicted his weapon, his eyebrow rising in surprise when he read, "Hikari of Class 1A. As you may have noticed by now, we made a modification to your photon sword. It can now be switched between 2 power settings, low and high. Low power will cause burn wounds if applied to bare flesh, so it's quite safe to use against villains without fear of causing undue harm. The higher power setting will allow you to cut through just about anything, as your previous model could. However, this does make it very dangerous, both to you and potential enemies. We advise exercising great caution if you do activate this module. To switch between the 2 settings, push the ignition control twice in rapid succession." Good to know, he thought as he set the weapon aside, only to notice one last item that he had not been expecting. "Hello," he murmured. "What are you?" The item in question looked like a headset similar to what helicopters pilots used, save for the fact that it fitted to one ear and had a blue lens that would go over the left eye. "No way," Kurai said with a massive grin. "Well done, Akurui." His brother had, in essence, designed a scouter similar to the ones used in the Dragon Ball franchise. Flipping through the instruction booklet once more, he quickly read, "The design of this latest addition to your costume was fairly easy for us to work with, given the provided schematics, and is simple to activate. Press the red button on the side to turn it on or off. Push the black button beneath it to scan your target and bring up criminal data on them. The green button above the red one will triangulate your position and give you a map of your surrounding area for 5 square miles. It also serves as a communicator that syncs up with your phone the first time you use it, allowing you to call anyone on your contact list and track their positions based on their phone data. It also works with the radios that many heroes use in the field, but you need to scan for the frequency being used with the blue button below the black button. It doesn't read power levels, but getting data on villains would be pretty helpful," he thought as he set that item back in the case and began to get changed. "Thanks, Akurui." Once he had donned his new gear and uploaded his contacts to his scouter, Kurai made his way over to the briefing room, where Gang Orca coordinated his daily patrols, and on occasion met up with other heroes for joint missions. One of the sidekicks directed him to stand near the back of the room, where he went without complaint. After that, the pro hero explained that they would be doing standard patrols for the day, but that in 2 days, they should be ready for a joint effort involving 2 other agencies. 3 agencies, one of them involving the number 10 hero. Kurai thought as the meeting was disbanded. Must be some villain they're going after. "Hikari." He stood at attention as Gang Orca approached him, waiting quietly while the man said, "You're with me for the next 2 days. If you perform according to my standards, we'll see about you accompanying us for the joint raid. It will be good for you to learn about cooperating with other agencies, but we're going to be up against a fairly major crime syndicate. If I think you're not up to the job, you'll be sticking to the standard patrols with one of the other sidekicks, understand?" "Yes, sir," Kurai said quickly, keeping his voice even despite his inevitable excitement. "I'll do my best to live up to your expectations." "See that you do," the pro hero said, sounding satisfied. "Now then, let's find out what this afternoon has planned for us. Remember, when we're not on the ship, I want you to stay close to me at all times." The first afternoon and evening yielded nothing significant while Gang Orca and his sidekicks took to the waters that bordered the city. Kurai was put to work as a deckhand, his enhanced strength assisting him nicely when he moved cargo as they needed. It was boring, monotonous work, but the student dared not complain. He knew that he couldn't expect to be treated like a celebrity, even if he had won the sports festival. He had to earn his place among this crew, even if it was only for the week. The sidekicks actually treated him pretty well, showing him the fastest way to accomplish his tasks as they were assigned to him by their boss, and giving him tips on what to look for while they were out on patrol. One of them, a young woman named Banshee, on account of being able to scream at supersonic levels, explained that normally they would be on the lookout for smugglers or illegal fishing in that part of the coast, but nothing turned up that night. Since he had expected some sort of hazing from the crew, it was actually a welcome surprise for the young high schooler. The second day, they took to patrolling the land, which turned out to be a bit more exciting. During the early afternoon, Gang Orca got a call about a robbery in progress at the city mall, where a few dozen people had been taken hostage. Apparently, the thieves were hitting up jewelry shops in the area and were threatening to kill one hostage for every badge and cape they saw approaching them. Unfortunately, 3 people had already been killed in a show of force, meaning that the bandits were not bluffing. Now they were demanding safe passage out of the country in return for the exchange of their hostages. In response, Gang Orca had sidekicks approach the mall in the guise of curious civilians after coordinating with the local police, so that they would know to let them through when the time came. Once Banshee was in position, Gang Orca, along with Kurai and a half-dozen other sidekicks, took a SWAT helicopter, which the villains would have made to think would be their escape vehicle. The boy was told that he would be allowed to engage with the villains only so long as he was close to Gang Orca. To start their attack, Banshee unleashed a scream that targeted the molecular frequency of the radios that the villains were using, causing them to explode in their ears, most of them collapsing from the pain and shock of their wounds. However, 3 of the villains were only disoriented, not disabled, and they were quick to recover their weapons, despite the blood and shrapnel coming out of their ears. One of them actually had a regeneration quirk that allowed him to tear off whatever part of his body had been damaged and then regrow it. As soon as he saw it in action from the helicopter, Kurai was able to identify him with a scouter. "That's Mako Ayakashi," he shouted to be heard above the whirling blades of their vehicle. "His quirk allows him to convert any metal that touches him into sand, pretty much makes him bulletproof. He's wanted for 4 murders and over a dozen heists like this one." "What about the other 2? Gang Orca asked, having already been briefed by the scouter's function. "Unknown, sir," Kurai answered. "They must be new villains because there's no data on either of them." "Alright, now stay back for the next part of the raid," the pro ordered him. "We're dealing with professional killers, so you are not to engage." Kurai was disappointed that he wouldn't be able to be part of the action, but he agreed without a hint of protestation. Gang Orca was responsible for training him, but he was also responsible for his safety. It wasn't unreasonable to expect him to allow the boy in combat during such a tense situation. By the same token, he would be able to observe how the pro dealt with criminals in person, without a police blockade in the way, which was a rare opportunity. The criminals had gone down without too much of a fight after the bulky hero descended upon them. Gang Orca's quirk allowed him to do anything an orca whale could, including using a sonar pulse to disable his enemies. Since Mako's quirk didn't apply to sonic waves, he was just as vulnerable to the technique as the rest of his compatriots. Kurai had been allowed to assist in restraining the villains alongside the other sidekicks. There was one moment when a thug with a phantom-type quirk phased out of her bindings, returned to her solid state, and then grabbed one of the sidekicks from behind and threatened to slash their hostage's throat if they weren't given safe passage out of the city. As it so happened, Kurai was the closest one to her, and when he looked at Gang Orca with a raised eyebrow, the big man nodded once, ever so slightly, and that was all the clearance Kurai needed. He launched himself at the woman from the side at top speed, striking her left kidney with thunderous force, followed by a sharp blow to the side of her head that instantly knocked her out. After confirming that she was really down this time, he stood up and said, "She's out, and she'll stay that way for a while." As Gang Orca made his way over to the young man, he rumbled, "Why hit her so hard? Surely it would have only taken one blow from you to incapacitate her." Kurai stood at attention and swiftly answered, "She was able to escape our restraints already, sir. I didn't know if we had equipment on hand to keep her type of power in check, so I wanted to make sure that she'll be unconscious for quite some time. I know I didn't deliver any death blows, as I studied the human body in regards to martial combat quite thoroughly. A blow to the jaw like the one I gave her is not lethal, unlike those applied to the temple or throat." Gang Orca nodded, seemingly satisfied with that answer. "We do have equipment to hold her, but given the circumstances and what you knew, you acted appropriately. Well done, Hikari. They'll try to be more aware of what equipment we have on us the next time we go out on the field." "Yes, sir." Despite the mixed praise, Kurai was glad he hadn't disappointed his instructor. The following day was the one where Gang Orca and 2 other agencies were going to be making a joint task force. The other heroes to arrive were Mount Lady and Mr. Brave. Both of them were capable in their own right, and they seemed to respect Kurai's temporary instructor. Then again, there weren't a lot of people who didn't respect, or at least have a healthy fear of, the number 10 pro. Kurai was in the middle of his morning spar with one of Gang Orca's sidekicks when Banshee came in and told them all to shower off and get in gear. "The briefing is in 30 minutes. Move it," she ordered. "Sheesh, what's got her in a mood lately?" asked Kurai's sparring partner. "I heard she's getting ready to open up her own agency," said another guy. "She's probably just antsy about moving into the world on her own." "How long has she been with Gang Orca?" Kurai asked as they exited the room. "I think it's been 4 years or so," his partner answered. "I'm not entirely sure. I've only been here since I graduated last year." 4 years, huh? Kurai thought as he headed toward the shower room. Wonder how long it'll take me to have my own agency. Once he had cleaned up and put on his hero outfit, Kurai joined the others in the briefing room. He wasn't entirely sure if he was going on a joint mission or if he would be doing standard patrols today, but either way, he didn't want to miss the meeting. He took his normal place toward the back of the room, noticing the presence of 2 other pros in front of the large monitor where Gang Orca made his presentations. However, he failed to notice the presence of a newcomer standing a few feet away from him, at least until they came over and hugged him from behind, and none too gently either. Turning to see who would approach him in such a familiar manner, he was nothing less than surprised when a familiar pink face smiled brightly at him from only a few inches away. "Mina?" he asked in surprise as he returned a brief hug. What are you doing here?" Both of them had the good sense not to be too cuddly in such a professional setting, but they figured a casual embrace should be okay. "Nice to see you too," she giggled. I'm interning with Mr. Brave, and I'm super excited when he told me we were teaming up with Gang Orca, because I knew it meant that we would get to work together. But come to think of it, I didn't know who you were going to be interning leading up to this. He remembered out loud. Why didn't you tell me? My internship didn't seem nearly as exciting as yours, so I didn't see a need to brag when you were training with the number 10 pro, she giggled. I'm still super excited, though. Yeah, me too, he grinned back. Here's to hoping Gang Orca lets me go on the raid, or whatever this is. Do you know why we're here? Nope, Mina said with a shake of her head. Mr. Brave wouldn't tell me what's up. Either they didn't want to worry us, or the mission must be classified as to avoid any unintentional leaks to the public, Kurai mused. Not sure which one we should be more concerned about. Yeah, when you think about it like that, his girlfriend winced. What are we up against? League of Villains, maybe? I hope not, Kurai said with a shudder. I still get nightmares about fighting Nomu. Me too, and I didn't even get up close with that thing, Mina replied in a similar tone. Quiet down, one of the sidekicks warned them, nudging Kurai in the ribs. The boss is about to start. Sorry. Kurai apologized as he turned his attention toward the front of the room, Mina doing the same as she silenced herself. Gang Orca stood in front of the board where a trio of profiles were quickly displayed. Our target today is a lot more dangerous than your average villains that were running solo, he rumbled. These 3 people are responsible for perhaps 5% of the human trafficking that happens in this country alone. We've been working on tracking down their base of operations for months now, and just last week, one of the feelers that the police put out came back with a hit. The pictures were replaced with a map of the city, where a red blip was shining in the northeast quadrant right by the waterfront. They smuggle in children from outside the country and process them in what we originally thought was a warehouse for the constructing materials of new cargo ships. Kurai's fist clenched, the thought of kids his age or younger being forced into slavery for the most depraved of masters infuriating him. He had seen his father come home on nights where he and his colleagues had taken down scum like these, and instead of being happy for his victory, the man always seemed drained, as if looking upon such atrocities rendered him completely unable to see the good that he had done. He suspected that his father even had to see a therapist from time to time concerning what he had witnessed, but of course the man himself never said a word on the matter. Mina must have picked up on his sudden rigidity, because she bumped his shoulder and gave him a nervous smile. It'll be okay, she seemed to be saying. He nodded back and forced himself to relax, unclenching his hands and forcing himself to breathe deeply. He was just in time to hear Gang Orca saying, These 3 all have very powerful quirks, and none of them are to be taken lightly. As he turned back toward the board, one of the profiles appeared again, larger and more detailed. This woman is Amani, villain name Animod. She has the ability to transform into any animal whose DNA she has come into contact with, but it doesn't work on humans. She also cannot go directly from one non-human form to another. She has to revert back to a human in order to change again. Police also believe that if she stays in the transformation longer than 2 hours, she will be stuck with whatever form she last took. The evidence of this being her twin brother, born with the same quirk, is now living his life as the parakeet you see on her shoulder. The 2 students took notice of the bright blue and green bird, Kurai filing the information away for later use. If that bird still has all the intelligence of a human, it'll bear watching, he thought grimly. Amani runs the show, but her 2 henchmen are nothing to ignore either. The number 10 hero is now saying, the image on the board shifting to twin mugshots. These 2 excuses for human beings are Matsuda and Matsui, otherwise known to the underworld as Mas and Menos. Both of them are locals, though they used to run with the Mexican cartel. That is, until Amani apparently brought them back a few years ago. On their own, they're basically quirkless, but if they have physical contact with one another, they can move with speeds of up to 300 miles an hour. Sounds like they could give All Might a run for his money in a marathon, Mr. Brave commented. Maybe, but if we can incapacitate one before they start using their quirk, they'll both be powerless, Gang Orca informed them. Both men need to be conscious for their quirk to activate. If we can take them out first, we eliminate the chances that they escape with their boss. What do you need us for, gang? Mount Lady asked impatiently. Sounds like this is a crew you can handle on your own, given how many sidekicks you have here. Mind yourself, Mr. Brave said sternly to the younger hero. I'm sure he has a reason for us to be here with him. I need you, Mr. Brave, to set a trap for Matsuda and Matsui, should our initial plan go awry. Gang Orca nodded. Nothing lethal, but if they can't run away, it'll certainly make our jobs easier. I understand, the man nodded, a look of knowing passing between the 2 of them. Mount Lady, I need you to handle the demolition of the ships in that warehouse, the lead hero said to the blonde woman. We don't need any of them escaping by boat to give our friends in the Coast Guard any trouble. Gotcha. The heroine nodded, seemingly satisfied now that she had a task to look forward to. Addressing his sidekicks now, Gang Orca stepped forward and announced, There will be 2 teams today. Banshee will lead Team Beta, I will lead Alpha. You all know which squad to go with, so I won't bother with roll call. As for our interns... He surprised the students by beckoning them closer. Making their way to the front of the room, the two classmates stood at attention as Gang Orca loomed over the front of them, his red eyes peering down at them with great intensity. After a quiet moment, he said, "Mr. Brave thinks that you have performed well these last 2 days, Ashido. You will be going with Banshee for prisoner extractions. As for Hikari," he turned to look his charge in the eye as he added, "you'll be with me on Team Alpha. We are responsible for bringing in as many villains as we can, starting with Amani and her 2 friends. Both of you are being given permission to use your quirks for open combat, but only for so long as this mission lasts. And if I see or hear any reason to stop you from going too far, you will be sent back to your school to face whatever disciplinary action that they see fit. Am I understood?" "Yes, sir," Kurai said sharply while Mina just nodded dumbly. "Then get moving. We leave in 5. Let's move it, people." "I guess I'll see you after this whole thing is over then," Mina said as she turned to her boyfriend. Giving him a brief hug, she whispered, "Please, be safe." "Only if you promise to stay safe yourself." He chuckled as he returned the hug. As he released her, he said, "Let's go beyond. Plus ultra." The warehouse that they were brought to looked unassuming, but Kurai gathered that was the idea. They couldn't well expect the villains to put up a gigantic neon sign that read, "Bad Guy Central," after all. He looked up at Gang Orca, who was waiting with his hand over his earpiece for the signal that it was their turn to move in. Team Alpha was currently sitting in what looked like a large school bus, but was actually loaded with capture weapons and heroes. Mr. Brave had already infiltrated the warehouse and was setting a trap for Moss and Menos, while Mount Lady was getting into position to smash the boats on the waterfront. Meanwhile, Banshee was standing by with Team Beta, ready to follow Alpha into the complex in order to rescue the people being held as slaves. Mina had been given a headset, so Kurai had made sure to get her frequency so that he could contact her if he needed to. There was a loud bang that shattered the relatively quiet city background noise, followed by Mount Lady emerging from a mound of rubble that used to be a section of the warehouse that had held slave transfer crafts. "Go," Gang Orca ordered as the door opened, and his sidekicks began to rush out into the street, heading right for the damaged warehouse. "Stay in Paris, don't hold back save for kill shots, and be careful. These guys won't hesitate to put us down if we get the chance." "Yes, sir!" his colleagues answered as they continued to pour out of the bus, with Gang Orca himself and Kurai exiting last. As they ran behind the sidekicks, Kurai's ears picked up with shouts of alarm coming from inside the building, so he looked up to see a number of windows being occupied by men with guns, all of which were aimed at his group. Before he could say anything about it, though, Gang Orca lowered his head slightly and unleashed a sonar pulse that disabled a majority of the gunmen. He did miss a trio that had begun shooting at them from the upper left side of the building, however, so Kurai enhanced his body with Energon and leaped high in the air, unleashing a trio of energy blasts as soon as he had a clear shot. He hit the ground running at the same moment that the 3 mercenaries were blasted back into the building. Glancing up at his hero, he asked, "How was that?" "You made yourself a pretty big target separating yourself from us like that," the man admonished him, but Kurai already had an answer ready for him. "I thought that if they saw someone jumping up at them, they would panic and get caught up in a second of indecision," he explained as they dashed across the street, ignoring the confused drivers that had been forced to stop their cars due to all the commotion. "And if worse comes to worse, it's better that they shoot just one sidekick as opposed to gunning down a bunch of your men." "Sound judgment," the pro nodded as they reached the door where the sidekicks had all gathered, some of them pounding on the heavy iron structure. Addressing them, he asked, "What's going on?" "They've bolted the door from the inside, sir," one of them answered. "It's reinforced, and none of us have the cork suited to knock it in. We didn't bring any explosives with us due to the hostage situation." "Step aside, all of you," Gang Orca ordered. Looking back at Kurai, he said, "Knock it down." "Yes, sir." Kurai grinned, energy whirling in his right hand, compacting itself into a little yellow ball. "Stand back," he said as he took a running stance. As soon as everyone had moved away, he launched himself at the door, shouting, "Rasengan!" The ball slammed into the door, twisting and warping the metal until it was ripped off its hinges and sent flying into the well-lit warehouse, shouts of pain and curses coming back at the group of heroes. Because of the weight that he had put into the move, Kurai found himself rolling into the structure, springing lightly to his feet just in time to be surrounded by 5 villains that all looked like they wanted to kill him. "Hi, guys." He grinned nervously. Hearing a series of rapid footsteps coming up behind him, he leaped high into the metal rafters, shouting, "Bye, guys!" Before any of the villains could unleash their quirks or weapons, they found themselves covered in cement that quickly hardened, pinning them in place as Gang Orca's sidekicks swarmed into the building. While that was happening, Kurai noticed that there were a few walkways running parallel to the rafters that he was perched on, many of them running over cages that held dozens of people each. And those on the rafters were villains of all kinds, some of them armed with guns, others simply using their quirks to take aim and fire at heroes that were invading their territory. Some of them had noticed his arrival, and so took aim at him, causing him to gulp nervously as he realized that he didn't have any backup. Leaping off the rafters with energy blazing in his hands, he shouted to his allies, "Heads up!" He fired a round of energy at the bars that supported the walkway closest to him, even as a fireball whizzed over his head, followed by a metal projectile that nearly took him in the arm. something too big and slow to be a bullet, so he guessed it was the result of someone's quirk. The energy blast ate through the supports, and the walkway began to collapse, sending a number of the villains tumbling off the side, many of them shouting curses at him as they went down. The problem was, he realized the metal structure was about to land on top of a cage that held a lot of screaming kids, and there was no way to tell if it would hold against such a heavy, violent impact. Heart pounding, veins surging with adrenaline, he hit the ground, forced his quirk to the maximum output that his costume would allow, and shot back toward the cage, praying that he would make it in time. He got there with only milliseconds to spare, crashing into the walkway shoulder first and sending the thing flying clear across the warehouse to crash into one of the walls, where the structure wound up sticking a massive dent caused by the impact. Kurai shouted in pain as he hit the ground, his shoulder dislocated. Tears blurred his vision as he scrabbled awkwardly on the ground. He tried to get up when he felt someone kicked him in the back, sending him sliding to hit the cage that he had just saved. "That was a stupid move, kid," a gravelly voice told him as he heard the sound of a gun cocking, causing him to freeze in place. "Brave and noble, but stupid." There was a burst of sound and Kurai instinctively flinched, expecting a bullet to bite into his head. When he realized he was still alive a couple of seconds later, he rolled himself over to look up at Banshee, who was grinning at him. "Still alive down there?" she asked him. Off to the side, Mina was melting the lock on the cage, quickly opening the door and directing the children aside to get out as quickly as they could. Many of them were chained together, so she was slowed down by having to carefully melt through the metal links that were hampering the crying children's progress, as to not accidentally get any acid on them. "I'm alive," he grunted as he tried to get up, his arm hanging uselessly by his side. "Everything happened so fast. Gang Orca's probably furious with me, huh?" "Nah, if anything, he'll be impressed with your quick thinking," Banshee told him as she helped him up. "You're kind of reckless, but a lot of us are when we first start out. Give us some time, you'll be a great hero, kid. By the way, what's up with your arm?" He gripped the sore limb with his right hand and grunted. "It's dislocated pretty bad. Good thing I've got some basic medical training then," Banshee said as she gripped his arm and shoulder, causing him to wince at the pain. "This is gonna hurt." Gritting his teeth, Kurai growled out, "Just do it." There was a sharp pop as his bones were forced to reconnect, and he grunted loudly at the pain, but he was relieved to feel that he could properly move his arm again, albeit with a lot of soreness. Wiping the reflex tears out of his eyes, he said through heavy breaths, "Thanks, Banshee." "Whew. You okay, Kurai?" Mina called out as she destroyed a little girl's feet manacles. She didn't turn toward him, focused on her task as she was, but he could hear the worry in her voice. "I'll be okay, but I might need a hospital before this is all over," he said with a pain grimace as he rolled the damaged limb. "Just don't shoulder check a metal bridge again and you should be fine," Banshee told him. Turning her head toward the sound of gunfire, she added, "You better get a move on. Sounds like I could use your help." Kurai's scouter alerted him to an incoming call, so he hit the comm button and said, "This is Hikari." "Where are you?" Gang Orca demanded, causing him to wince. "I told you to stay close by. I lost you as soon as we got into the building." "Things got kind of hectic for a second. A bunch of these guys were shooting at me. I needed to get away, and I ended up with Banshee," Kurai reported as he brought up the map function that displayed the caller's location. "I'm heading your way right now, sir." "All right," the pro hero said in a calmer tone, apparently mollified by the fact that he was not alone. "But be quick about it and try to keep the recklessness to a minimum." "Yes, sir." Killing the communication, he turned toward the young woman and said, "Thank you for your help. I'd have been toast without you." You'd have figured something else out." Banshee told him, "I was one that saw you at the sports fest. You got the skills, kid." "Get going," Mina told him as she finished with the last of the children's bindings. "Something about Gang Orca reminds me of Mr. Aizawa when he's mad, so I wouldn't keep him waiting." "Good instincts," Banshee snickered. "And I'm off," Kurai said as he leaped on top of the cage. Later. The layout of the warehouse was a fairly open design, kind of like the ones that Kurai had seen in movies where the bad guys were storing weapons or drugs, complete with a labyrinth that made it difficult to move in large groups. He imagined that was why Gang Orca wanted them to be in small teams of 2 or 3 to combine both speed and caution. He managed to rejoin with his instructor, offering another hasty apology when he did, which was more or less waved off. After all, they had more important things to worry about, such as not getting shot or otherwise torn apart by villains. As they made progress through the warehouse, methodically taking down any villains that they saw, Kurai felt his awe of Gang Orca growing by the minute. The man seemed unflappable, indomitable in the face of odds that many would have found overwhelming, and never once did his face change from the steely expression that he had worn since the battle had begun. They were just about to wrap up their sweep of the warehouse. Mas and Menos had been successfully captured by Mr. Brave, and moving on Animod's last known location. When the two of them were ambushed by half a dozen villains, 4 of them armed with assault rifles, one using a quirk that caused anyone looking directly at him to see double, and an older man that was covered in metal needles. Kurai stiffened when he saw the last one, a horrible suspicion recurring to him, as the silvery quills triggered an old memory. Reaching up, he scanned the man with his scouter. his eyes widening briefly before narrowing with hatred. Nagano Shibuya. He growled, energy swirling in his hands in spite of the weapons aimed at him and his supervisor. Formerly Needle Mouse of the Pentagram Yakuza family. Oh, so you know who I am, the man chuckled. Nice to know my reputation precedes me. You're supposed to be in a jail cell. Gang Orca said over his shoulder as his back was to Kurai's, and he couldn't see the man clearly, though apparently he knew who he was. What are you doing out? Animod posted my bail, appointed me as one of her enforcers, the man shrugged. It's not the prestige that I once enjoyed, but it beats rotting in a cell next to my brother. Looking at Kurai interestedly, he said, Your sidekick here looks like he's trying to set me on fire with his eyes. What's his deal? Hikari? Gang Orca asked, something like concern in his voice. What's wrong? Tell me something, Kurai said, ignoring his instructor's question. Do you remember the day that your syndicate was destroyed? The day that Endeavor and All Might took you down? Yeah, that's not the kind of thing that one forgets easily, kid. Nagano laughed bitterly. I nearly got the fiery bastard, too. Yeah, I'm well aware. Kurai snarled, the energy in his hands glowing brighter as his eyes sparked with blue, though he didn't transform properly just yet. The man you killed in his stead was my uncle.
So, who saw that coming? When I was first going through the story and stuff, did I give you a warning in advance about that one, or did I just kind of pop that one on you?
I think you did kind of pop it on me, because you had alluded to him having a history with that villain because of his uncle. Mm-hmm. But I did not expect him to come face to face with him this soon, especially. So I thought that was really interesting, especially because it parallels what's going on in the other internships currently. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the Ida and Kurai kind of parallel each other's in some ways because they're almost like brothers.
Yep. And I did that. I did that intentionally. I did think about saving this particular confrontation for a later date, but it felt like the best time to do it for a number of reasons. One, because of what Ida's going through, and two, while it might not seem super significant on surface level, Kurai's recent encounter with Endeavor, taking into account the fact that he holds Endeavor responsible, at least in part, for what happened to his uncle. Now he's coming face to face with the other party directly responsible.
So he's going to have to really analyze himself, and how, well, we can back up real quick, though, because that's not where the chapter started. Yeah. And so, of course, we have conversation with Gang Orca. Yep.
That was important to... I could have just had him, get straight into the internship and, have him meet Gang Orca, while he's on the job. But I thought that the interview, for lack of a better word, him starting with that, was important because I felt there was time that some of Kurai's flaws needed to be addressed and put in his face and make him confront himself about certain things.
And I like that Gang Orca is so brutally honest, because that's how you would have to be in this kind of field. Mm-hmm. Anytime people's lives are on the line, you need someone who's really going to question.
There's no room for sugarcoating stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And Gang Orca is great at that. He's questioning every decision that Kurai makes and the reasoning behind it. And
and he does that throughout the internship,
which I think is awesome, because that iron sharpens iron, right? Mm-hmm. And he's kind of, teachers become this inner voice in their students, and so he's trying to get Kurai to start really anticipating and thinking and reasoning through these decisions.
You must always be planning your next step. Yeah. So yeah, that was. I felt that was an important scene to include, and throughout the chapter, something that I wanted to get Kurai familiar with, for lack of a better term, is merging his personal life with hero work, because that's not something that we see a lot, even in My Hero Academia, so far at least. Most of the time, it's like they have their hero life and they have their student life, and the two are fairly separate. In the Yakuza arc, Deku works with his friends, but it's fairly minimal. He doesn't actually interact with them out in the field a whole lot. In this, I wanted to have Kurai actually be with people that he holds personal ties to and see how that would affect him in the field. Gang Orca, his personal idol, his favorite hero of all time. This guy is like All Might to him.
Meanwhile, we've got Mina.
I was about to get to that.
Yeah.
So like I wanted to see is like, is he gonna just be blinded by his overwhelming adoration for this guy, or is he gonna handle himself in a professional manner? He's been raised by a cop. He's been raised in a good setting. He knows how to conduct himself professionally. So even if he's like, oh man, it's cool, I get to work with my favorite hero, he knows to keep a certain. He still knows how to present himself. Mm-hmm. He knows how to conduct himself in a work setting. And I thought this was a good way to showcase that. Now, when Mina comes along, he's taken off guard for a minute, but he still manages to keep a pretty professional mm-hmm. conduct. But I thought it'd be a little funny for him to have a moment where it's just like, wait, am I a bad boyfriend? I didn't even ask her where she was interning.
But I mean, that's the thing, though. It's going to be interesting because if they choose to pursue this relationship, they're going to have to
mm-hmm.
They have to accept that their professional paths are going to cross, and
yep.
that's always messy, no matter what field you're in.
Yep.
And so they're going to have to
even if they end up becoming, even if like someday they go on, they get married or whatever, and they have the same agency, that's still gonna. Mm-hmm. The hero life is going to cause strain on personal relationships.
You have to figure out boundaries
mm-hmm.
and how to make it work. And
I'd like to think they got off to a pretty good start.
No, yeah, I think they did well. Both of them were more concerned about the job at hand
mm-hmm.
than
when
the other person
like breaks his shoulder crashing the bridge, and Mina and Banshee come over and they're like, hey, are you okay? Mina's still working on saving the kids instead of running over to his side.
And it just goes to show that they respect each other's skills. Mm-hmm. And they know that neither one of them is the damsel in distress who needs to be rescued, which I feel like is so overdone in a lot of stories, especially when there's people in relationships.
A lot of times it's the girl who's the damsel in distress, but a lot of times these days too, it's the guy who ends up being the damsel in distress. So I'm like, stop being damsels, both of you kick butt. You know you can do it.
Or neither of them is, but one of them is sitting here and lamenting everything and thinking about their lives.
That's just so much worse. Sakura.
Don't get me started on. We need to just do like when we finish Naruto. We just need to do a Naruto episode because there's so much there that we could pull apart. We could pull apart so much with the characters there and the development, which I love. But anyway, what I'm saying is, I feel that. Partially, yes, it's entertaining, but it drives me crazy because if you are serious about your job, you're going to have to put that emotional part of your life aside and, in a way, kind of dissociate from it so you can get your job done and then worry about that later.
Which presents its own set of problems,
mm-hmm.
but...
Yeah, but priorities, right?
Exactly.
And so, anyway, we had that happen.
Mm-hmm.
We had the mall incident, I believe.
Yeah, the mall incident. So that kind of takes place like in the middle of the chapter. That was kind of to get Kurai in the groove, like of working with a professional hero, like kind of as a sidekick, which he might end up doing after he finishes high school. He'll probably start work as a sidekick unless he has enough popularity and he gets funded by the government to start his own agency. That may also happen. We'll have to see. Sorry, what was I going to say? But I also kind of just wanted to play her a little bit around with like creating my own quirks, kind of a thing. So we had Banshee. She kind of based off the same character from the Marvel comics. Do you remember the X-Men First Class movie? Yeah. There was that guy who could scream. Mm-hmm. So I took that and I kind of kicked it up a notch a little bit. She has a much finer control over the sonic waves that she emits. Like she was able to target the specific molecular frequency of an earpiece radio, so that when she screamed, that was the only thing that the vibrations hit.
That's what that made me think of Canary.
Yeah, from the Arrowverse. Yeah, okay. I hadn't even thought about that, but that's mm-hmm. a good. Yeah, she can control her voice to only hit certain objects. So she screamed at this crowd full of people, but the only thing that got hit were the radios in these guys' ears.
So she's got a much more precise aim mm-hmm. than the character Canary.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to give her
characters, I should say.
Yeah. What was I was going to say? I kind of mentioned in this chapter that this Banshee character, she's going to go and make her own agency, And once I had put that in, I was like, no, I should showcase a reason like why she should get her own agency. You know, she's sidekick to the number 10 hero. It's got to be something good to be able to break away from that. So I'd like to think that I gave her a skill set that like doesn't overshadow getting Orca, but kind of shows like, hey, she's someone to watch out for.
Yeah.
I will definitely include her again in some later arcs. Probably when the character's a little older, but I was like, I had fun coming up with this character, and I was like, she's a fun side character. I'm not gonna work her super hard into the main story, but she's fun to have around every now and again.
Add a little more dimension to what's going on. Yeah, so then we move into the craziness of the end.
The slaving ring. I chose to do a slaving ring arc because I kind of wanted to pick something that kind of hits with audiences that are reading stuff like at this current time, and human trafficking has become
it's a major topic.
It's a major topic right now. It is a huge problem, and I felt that this was a good way to bring attention to it and kind of remind people like, hey, this is still happening
on a large scale.
On a very large scale, yeah, it's really disturbing, honestly. I also wanted to kind of give Kurai a big setup for the reveal at the end, and also give him how do I put this? Like, it helps him. It's going to help him empathize with his dad a little more. Like, he already has a huge respect for the man. Like, he thinks his dad is great, but this will help him come to understand what his father goes through a little more. Because he thinks about it, he's like I know I've seen Dad come home from raids like this, and every time it was just like he didn't look happy. Like, even though he did something good, now he's starting to understand. Like, after seeing it for himself, he's like, oh my god, this is awful.
Yeah, when you see the depravity of man, it's very disturbing, and you have to get recentered for sure.
Yeah. So this is all building up to Kurai is going to be Kurai is obviously being set up to being pushed to the breaking point of sanity here. He had to deal with Endeavor, so that's jarred loose a lot of stuff for him. He's having to deal with human trafficking, which is one of the worst crimes you can possibly commit, and now he's face to face with the guy that killed his uncle. So like all of this stuff is building up to what is pretty much going to be his moment of truth in the beginning of his hero career. Whatever he does next is going to have a huge impact on what he does with the rest of his time as a hero. Yeah. So I'd like to think that I built up the suspense enough, but I guess I'll have to wait and see what these guys have to say about it.
And we'll see how the situation pans out too.
Yeah.
If he behaves more like Ida, or if he...
Because like you said, Ida and him are drawing several parallels here.
And, I mean, they were raised together. They have very similar ways of handling
very
things.
Similar values, yeah.
And so, I think he's probably in a better place emotionally than Ida is. But this is also a very hard topic for him, and to be suddenly confronted with it in a high stress situation when he's been using his quirk and he's already being
something
pushed.
To remember, his quirk messes with his head,
and so if he's already in an unstable place emotionally and he's having to watch it, then this can definitely affect how he handles himself, and so this can be telling of his future as a hero, really. Yeah. Something else real quick that I wanted to go over was so far we've mostly seen Kurai like he's naturally gifted, he's also well educated, so he handles himself pretty well. Like even during the USJ incident, he handled himself pretty well. Got the stuffing beaten out of him by Nomu, but pretty much anybody but All Might was going to get the snot beat out of them with that thing. But this is some I kind of wanted to show him in a more like, this isn't necessarily what you would call a normal circumstance, even in their world. But it's closer to the thing, and I kind of wanted to show again that he does still have flaws. Like he made some bad calls. Like he kicked down the door like he was supposed to, but he kind of went a little too far with it, and then suddenly he's got guys shooting him all over the place. So he made a mistake. One thing led to another. He almost got his head blown out because a guy found him with a gun, broke his shoulder. So Kurai still has improvements that he needs to work on. So I felt that was another thing to showcase in this. And then the last little thing I kind of wanted to cover was the quirks that some of the quirks that I came up with the villains, because those were fun.
I'm sure some of you guys can already guess, but Mas and Menos.
I was cracking up. I was like, oh my god.
I want there to be two sidekick dudes. They don't even have to show up on screen. I just want them to be there. But I couldn't for the life of me figure out like what would be a good set.
Más o menos.
Yep. And I'm just like, I remember coming up with the idea. I'm like, what if Mas and Menos were villains? I'm like, why did I pick those two? But whatever. I thought it was funny. I'm hoping it made somebody laugh. And then the other one was It
was very anime. I could totally see two characters being named that. They love taking random pieces of other languages and just like randomly slapping them on comical characters, or not comical, but random side characters.
Yeah. I think the one that got your attention was the morphing quirk, right? When I was reading about that that earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I actually got that. I definitely ripped that off the Animorph series, because the main characters in that, they all have the ability to, if they touch an animal, they acquire its DNA, they can turn into that animal.
Nerd.
But if they stay in the form for longer than 2 hours, they end up stuck as that form. That actually happens to one of them, like the first book, and it's actually like really terrible. He gets stuck as a bird. That really sucks. So funny enough, the lady's twin brother also gets stuck as a bird, except that he ends up as a parakeet instead of a red-tailed hawk. It's quite the downgrade. But
you know a lot about this children's series.
Talk about. I read this all the time. I read it all the time when I was in grade school.
I'm just giving you crap. You're fine. We're on a tangent.
A little bit. Sorry. No, I was just kind of like, this was a fun chapter to write, as well as being heavy. Fun because I got to like finally branch outside of the school and like, okay, like I can set this quirk up for this situation. I can do this character applies with this quirk, and that makes for this situation. I can see why the guy that wrote My Hero Academia has so much fun with this kind of thing. Like there's very little limit to what you can create with it. It's a lot of fun. It also makes me think outside the box, because like you have to think outside the means of conventional superpowers. Like one of the villains I came up with, it's like, oh, he's got shrapnel in his ear, he just rips his ear off and grows a new one. That's his quirk. Another guy's like, you shoot a bullet at him, bullet turns to sand like a foot away from him, because metal that comes within a certain proximity of him at a certain speed just turns into dust. I'm like, I don't even remember how I came up with those, but I was just like, hey, these two things seem unrelated. I'm going to put them together, and now we've got a superpower.
But yeah, a lot of the quirks in that show are super random. But that's what makes it interesting, because they're not your typical, like, super strength.
Who thinks of putting jet engines on a guy's legs?
Right? That's so random. But
it's not even like an augmentation. He was just born that way.
Yeah, this show is in no way sci-fi. It's just... it's just so random. You can't come up with rules to how it works. And we've talked about
kind of can, but even when he breaks the rules, like the author's really clever about how he does this. Like, you can only be born with a quirk, but there's a quirk that lets you surpass that, because there's a quirk for everything, right? And then it's like, what was it I saw the other day where it was like, what is Deku, like, what did everybody else think that Deku's power is called? Bone break?
Plot twist. They're all in the Matrix, and they all think that they have super pure powers, but they don't. They're just vegetables plugged into
they're human batteries.
Yes.
What a terrible... Why?
You're welcome.
Why did you do that?
Why else would suddenly everyone in the world have superpowers overnight and just accept it?
No, it just started with the one guy, and then it spread it. I don't know.
Sure.
I don't know. World War III, man. It's nuclear radiation. It's X-Men. That's what it is.
Sure. Instead of... I mean, I guess that's the dream. Instead of, like, your skin rotting and melting off of you from radiation sickness, you just get superpowers instead. Yeah, the dream.
Did you ever think about some quirks where it's just, like, there would, like, be only, like, negative side effects to it?
Oh, God.
Like, technically Aoyama's is like that, because if he doesn't have his belt on, like, lasers just leak out of his stomach all the time.
Don't even get me started on how creepy that character is.
Aoyama's not the worst.
I know. I'm just thinking about that picture is just like leaking out of... No. No, don't make me think about
Sorry.
that. That's just...
It's like, can you imagine? Like, there's got to be some poor person out there with a quirk where it's like your superpower is like giant zit or something like that.
Just play $1 million butt, and that's your quirk.
That's your quirk. Oh my god!
Every time
you step on a line, you break somebody's spine.
Or, whenever I check my email,
I
am suddenly teleported to another dimension.
You see a purple car, you have to punch the nearest person to you in the mouth.
Yeah, it's literally like they're that random.
Quirk, compulsive violence.
But,
I'm going to use that now.
Oh no. This person meets Bakugo and we have a real entertaining moment.
Oh my god.
Okay. Anyway, that being said, that's why the show is very fun, because there's very limitless ways of describing these characters.
Yeah. And empowering them. Mm-hmm. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed the audio chapter. I'm sorry about the whole camera thing. I'm going to try and get that fixed soon. I hope you guys enjoyed the chapter. I'm interested to see what you guys think Kurai is going to do. Do you think he's going to waste the guy that killed his uncle? Do you think he's going to be able to hold himself back? Do you think Gang Orca will have a part to play in it? I mean, he's standing right there, but I mean, if Kurai decides to go nuts, there's not a whole lot that can stop him. And I mean, how do you think? I mean, there's a lot to consider here, like how this will affect his relationship with his classmates. Like, especially if Mina sees him do something nuts. Mm-hmm. How would that affect their relationship? So
watch, you're gonna have people over here theorizing, oh, Mina's not gonna like him anymore, so Momo's gonna get him, and then she's not gonna be grouchy anymore. They're all gonna be like theorizing, it'll be great, and then they'll all be wrong. No, just kidding. You guys are pretty smart. You often, not always, guess some of the details. So
some of them, yeah. I'd like to think that I'm playing with my cards fairly close to the chest on this one.
Yeah. A lot of this story. Yeah. Like, you guys don't even know. There are things. Okay, I've seen this guy's outline of events, and oh dang.
I am so evil.
The feels that are coming your way in the coming year.
Even for the Island bit.
Yeah, that's just the beginning. That's just the beginning, bro. That's just the beginning. And it gets worse. I mean, better. Depending on how you think of it. That Mandalorian episode, by the way. And that's where we're going to end it. That's where we're going to end it.
That Mandalorian episode. Oh my
goodness. If you haven't seen it. Oh, jeez.
It was most certainly plus ultra.
If you've ever seen Signs, that scene that is now a GIF or GIF, whatever, where he sees the alien on TV and he like loses his mind and backs into the closet because he's so shocked and disturbed. That GIF right there, that is me every time any character is introduced in The Mandalorian.
Forget the closet. We backed all the way out of the freaking house for this one.
Screaming. It was
like
great.
Little children.
Anyway, I don't want to give anything away because I'm losing my mind over here. But good to see you guys.
Good to see you guys. Kind of.
I mean, good. It's good. It's not kind of good. It's very good. I just can't see you because it's a recording and our faces aren't on it.
I'll have a new chapter up for you guys as a video format in 2 weeks. Christmas and New Year's won't interfere with the upload schedule. If a holiday ever does interfere with an upload schedule, I'll try to let you guys know in advance. But we'll see you guys next year, I guess. So Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, best to all of you and yours.